Let's proceed with this session, which is dedicated to investigating, in the form of a panel, the state of agriculture training in the region, and with a special focus on the interdisciplinarity of training. I am we are extremely lucky to have our esteemed colleagues in here. And as I am not sure, I know everyone in here, but I am going to ask them to make a brief introduction of themselves, a couple of sentences, where you are, and essentially your academic credentials, because this is, your educational credentials, because this is a roundtable around education. So where you work and in what field exactly. And then we shall proceed after that with a quick 3-4 minutes presentation from each person about their views of the matter, after which we shall open that to a debate with the audience and the participants of the panel able to exchange views and ideas. I hope this is agreeable to everyone who is here. They are going to introduce themselves, because I'm not sure I'll do a fair job of it. Mohamed?
Okay, Mohamed Mehdi. My English is bad. I introduce myself in English, but after that I will talk in French. Mohamed Mehdi. I teach rural sociology in Ecole Nationale dAgriculture in Meknes. But my background, I was in the University Hassan II, and I learned political sciences. But I moved to sociology and anthropology. In all my field work, all my research has been done in anthropology and sociology. So,
okay. Thank you. Ray.
Okay. I'm Ray Bush. I'm Professor of African Studies and Development Politics at the University of Leeds. I've worked in and on African political economy for many years, working particularly with a journal called the Review of African Political Economy, which is a pretty unique journal on African studies in terms of its political economy and radical critique.
Sabah al-Khair. I'm Habib. I'm from Tunisia, based in France, where I teach social geography. I'm actually a social geographer, and as a researcher, I'm more focusing on rural issues. And I started working on water problematics, and then I moved to small farmers world. My first works have been done in Egypt, where I had the chance to work closely with Rim Saad. I think she will give a presentation this afternoon, and many other colleagues. And from 2007 and a bit more from 2011, I moved to Tunisia, where I'm doing research and related activities in Tunisia, and working closely since 4 or 5 years, I think, with my comrade Ray Bush. And I'm also a filmmaker, making documentaries on rural issues and related problematics and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Habib. My name is Rami Zureik. I am a professor in the Faculty of Agricultural and Food Sciences in this university at AUB. My formal training is that of an agriculture engineer. I'm a soil scientist by training, and I chair today a department of landscape architecture where I work in landscape science. A lot of my work, though, has is at the interface between natural sciences and social sciences, with specific interest in matters that have to do with food security, conflicts, the agrarian question within that whole optic.
So I'm Bilgi Sabara. My background is chemistry. I stepped into water issues when I started working with the Water and Environment Center at Sana'a University. First I started at the Faculty of Science at Sana'a University. Then I stepped into the Water and Environment Center in 2005, and there I was organizing a master program in integrated water resources management. And there I work in on integrated approaches to water management. And in late 2011, I started heading the Gender Development Research and Study Center at Sana'a University. And there I am also heading a master program in international development and gender. So my current studies are focused on water issues related to gender and conflict. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rima Habib. I'm a professor and chair of the Department of Environmental Health here at the Faculty of Health Sciences at AUB. For my PhD, I studied the low protracted doses of ionizing radiation on workers who work at nuclear plants. I did that in Sydney, Australia. And then I moved to Lebanon, and as you can see, I've gone a long way because of what I'm doing right now. It must be that interdisciplinarity is at heart for me. And then I studied the workers, environmental exposures for these workers and their impacts on their health and well-being. And I'm delighted to be here today with you. Thank you. Okay, yes. One of the panelists in this round discussion is missing, Dr. Amin Al-Hakimi, who is a professor of plant breeding, and he had sent us comments. I'm not sure, Chair, whether we can read his brief comment right now or later on.
In due time.
In due time, thank you.
But he is, of course, in Sana'a, unable to.
Yeah, because of the closure of the airport.
Unable to go back.
Yes.
That's right. So we have two Yemenis. One is stranded in Sana'a who cannot come and be with us, and one who is stranded here. But we're going to take advantage of her presence here and discuss and plan the next steps in our project in Yemen. So sorry, Bilqis, you're stranded, but we're taking advantage of that. Thank you very much.
I'm not on this panel. I was
Okay.
just brought in as a sidekick here.
All right.
She wanted. She wanted me next to her.
As a sidekick, that'd be the day. I'm on video.
I thought you were on this panel.
No!
I would have imposed
May
it.
I have my tools back, please?
Yes.
Can I go and
Okay.
Oh, yes, you can.
Okay, no, come in, stay here, Marta. Don't go.
She wants to watch us rather than
Welcome
watch.
everyone, and now that we know where people come from, you see that there is a blend of educators at university level from different parts of the Arab world, and also from would call the West, though I don't know whether really Ray qualifies for being in the West, but nevertheless, in terms of geographic location, he is most of the time there. Let me just try to map a little bit, and then I will give the floor to each of my colleagues in turn to make their little comments about it. We would like to look a little bit about the state of agricultural training, as I said, and especially the matter of interdisciplinarity that is becoming increasingly important. Martha and myself tried to put some structure to this discussion. So if we could, within our discussion for my colleagues here, talk a little bit first about what characterizes the structure, the history, the evolution of agricultural training in this region, and how in particular, how this has contributing to setting up the systems of agricultural exploitations that we are seeing today, and how this interacts in turn with the global food regimes. How these work together, first whether they work together, and how do they actually work together, and whether there are any flaws in the way this is taking place, specifically on issues related to interdisciplinarity, but not exclusively, and how could we perhaps make a move in the direction of remedying this. And the other aspect of it would also be trying to shed some light on the interaction between the natural sciences and the social sciences on that important interface that is known as agrarian studies. And so within the concept of agrarian studies, removing ourselves from the disciplinarity and trying to find a common ground in which we can look not only at who does the production of food, but also about how practically, technically is the production of food and fiber taking place, and how does it fit within the structure of rural society. A big agenda. We have about an hour and a half to address this, and without further ado, I shall ask Mohamed to make a couple of comments, and then we'll take a turn, and then I'm hoping this will leave us with about an hour for an open discussion. 5 minutes?
Merci, Président. Oh, je vais parler en français, c'est plus simple, sinon je vais vous embêter avec mon anglais qui n'est pas terrible. Alors, moi, c'est vrai, cette histoire de l'interaction entre sciences sociales, l'interdisciplinarité et tout ça, je crois que le cas du Maroc, surtout avec l'école, avec l'Institut agronomique, donne un cas de cette interaction entre les deux choses qui n'est pas facile, mais qui a été faite. Et on va voir qu'il y a une histoire de la formation agronomique au Maroc qui est très intéressante à connaître si on veut connaître l'état actuel de la relation et de l'interdisciplinarité et de comment la formation se fait. Je suis parti d'un constat très simple de Ballandier qui disait que les sciences sociales appartiennent à une génération. C'est-à-dire qu'on ne peut pas comprendre l'état de l'enseignement si on ne l'institue pas dans la génération, dans l'histoire. Et c'est vrai qu'au Maroc, les premiers enseignements de l'agronomie étaient faits dans les écoles primaires, déjà dans les années 30, parce que tout simplement, ils sont partis de l'idée de Jules Ferry, c'est transformer de l'intérieur des manières d'agir, des manières d'agir et de penser des paysans. C'est-à-dire, pour les transformer, pour les amener à moderniser et pour les dominer, il faudrait commencer à injecter déjà dans l'école primaire l'enseignement de l'agriculture. Et donc c'était un instrument d'action au départ. C'était un instrument de domination des classes sociales. Et on voit que déjà dans les années 20, il y avait quelque chose comme 16 écoles franco-berbères. Franco-berbères, non pas arabes, mais franco-berbères, qui comptaient déjà 600 élèves. Donc, d'où l'intérêt de cet enseignement. Alors, après, les écoles vont être... Je fais vite, hein, je fais vite. Il y a un livre qui vient de sortir qui s'appelle « La fabrique de l'ingénieur » et qui est une publication posthume parce que son auteur, qui est un collègue et un ami, est mort en 1985 avec le maître de la sociologie rurale au Maroc, qui est Paul Pascan, qui a fondé tout le système dont je vais parler tout de suite à l'École nationale, qui sont morts en Mauritanie dans une mission. Et ce livre-là, on l'a sorti dernièrement dans la chaire de Paul Pascan qu'on vient de créer, justement pour continuer cette tradition de travail et de sociologique. Alors là, une deuxième génération, c'est celle-là dont je vais parler. L'objectif était double. C'est d'abord former des cadres de l'État. C'est normal parce que dans les années 60-70, le Maroc vient d'avoir son indépendance, il en avait besoin de cadres. Il s'agit de former des cadres, mais aussi produire de la connaissance sur les paysans et leur milieu. Et donc, tous les systèmes qui ont été mis en place visaient ces deux choses. À la fois donner, je vais vous lire comment on a formé ça. C'était le fait de dire il faut former intellectuellement des gens qui seraient capables de discuter avec les paysans. C'était ça, parce que tous allaient travailler dans l'administration. Et ils étaient liés par un contrat de 8 ans, c'est-à-dire les étudiants qui rentraient à l'Institut agronomique étaient obligés de travailler par la suite avec l'État. Et donc, parallèlement à ça, il y avait la mise en place d'un département des sciences sociales. On appelait le département des sciences humaines. Et ça, c'est une curiosité dans une école d'agronomie d'avoir un département de sciences humaines où il y avait des géographes, où il y avait des sociologues, où il y avait des anthropologues, où il y avait des juristes, il y avait des économistes, etc. Des économistes classiques, hein, vraiment. C'est avec une approche marxiste, etc. Et tout ça, c'était pour dire, ce département-là, il est pour accompagner tous les aspects techniques, toutes les formations techniques qui sont données, et donc il dispensait ces formations qui étaient très utiles pour les étudiants. Et parallèlement à ça, il y avait la mise en place d'un système de stage. Alors chaque année, il y a un stage qui dit, voilà, la formation ne se fait pas tout simplement dans les amphithéâtres et dans les labos, mais il se fait sur le terrain. C'est-à-dire que les étudiants sont amenés chaque année à sortir sur le terrain, aller faire des descriptions. Et si vous voulez, je vais rapidement vous donner le type de stage qu'il y avait par an pour vous donner cette idée de l'interdisciplinarité. Parce que ce département des stages allait piloter cette activité de stage, mais en intégrant toutes les autres disciplines. C'est-à-dire, si vous prenez les cahiers pédagogiques de ces stages, vous trouvez qu'ils sont élaborés par les gens des sciences sociales, mais aussi par les autres techniciens, les agronomes, etc. Et l'étudiant était vraiment dans l'indisciplinarité. Je vous donne un exemple, un stage qui s'appelle stage d'exploitation agricole, où l'étudiant doit être amené à passer 3 périodes de l'année chez un agriculteur, et il doit absolument vers la fin faire un bilan économique, mais avant, il aurait fait un bilan technique, il aurait fait un bilan social et sociologique, et donc il sortir avec une idée sur l'exploitation agricole et sur son mode de fonctionnement. Comment il fonctionne du point de vue du travail, de la famille, du point de vue de la pluriactivité, mais aussi du point de vue les techniques, comment ils sont conduites. Je dis ça rapidement, mais c'est des documents comme ça, c'est pratiquement 45 jours de terrain pour l'étudiant. Et chaque année, c'est comme ça. Il y a un stage qui permet à ces étudiants de travailler. Alors maintenant, l'encadrement, il se fait de façon pluridisciplinaire. C'est-à-dire que l'étudiant doit discuter avec le zootechnicien, doit discuter avec l'agronome, doit discuter avec le sociologue, avec l'économiste. Et là, quand même, il se forme. Voilà, cette manière a permis une certaine indisciplinarité et a permis à des enseignants de différents bords de discuter entre eux et de pouvoir faire des choses en loin. Alors, 3e génération, c'est le libéralisme. L'État ne recrute plus. Et maintenant, les étudiants doivent se débrouiller. Et maintenant, on parle de plus en plus de l'adéquation formation-emploi. C'est-à-dire que la formation doit être faite de façon à permettre aux étudiants de trouver du travail. Sauf que pour moi, il n'y a aucun marché du travail parce qu'on ne sait pas ce que les gens demandent. Mais maintenant, alors, ce système de stage allait se transformer. Et on voit apparaître des stages qui sont plus faits dans des entreprises. Dans des entreprises, l'agroalimentaire, je m'excuse, il n'y a que ça qui intéresse les étudiants, dans les entreprises phytosanitaires, parce que les étudiants cherchent du travail. Ils essaient quand même à travers le stage. Et là, nous avons une lutte entre les anciennes générations comme moi, et on m'a traité de nostalgique, parce que moi je suis nostalgique de ces périodes où quand même on a de l'accès au terrain, et on produit énormément de choses. Je vous donne un exemple. Paul Pascon avait écrit un livre qui s'appelle « Les paysans sans terre ». Alors, les paysans sans terre, c'est basé uniquement sur les rapports de stage des étudiants, parce que si vous regardez sur plusieurs années, tout le Maroc presque est couvert. Tout le Maroc est couvert, et une fois j'ai dit à Paul Pascal, il m'a montré ça avec des punaises, etc. Mais je dis, c'est l'État dans l'État, oui, c'est comme ça qu'on travaille. C'est comme ça. C'est cette idée, cette soif de connaissance pluridisciplinaire sur tous les domaines, sur comment les techniques changent, comment les paysans s'approprient la modernisation, mais comment aussi ils font face aux problèmes du changement climatique. Tous ces éléments sont là, et ces stages permettaient aux étudiants, bien sûr. Ce qu'on perd aussi, j'ai oublié de dire que dans la formation, il y avait les mémoires de fin d'études qui duraient une année. Et là aussi, il y a une production de connaissances très très importante sur le milieu rural, sur des questions nouvelles, etc. Et ça a été perdu avec le système LMD, où le mémoire devient tout simplement comment on appelle ça, un projet de fin d'études, comme partout, et ça vide l'activité de son contenu. Voilà, j'arrête ici.
Merci, oui, merci beaucoup, Mohamed. Je crois que cet exposé était très clair. And I will shift to English to summarize a couple of the points that have been made in here for those of us who were not colonized by the French. And the intention, Mohamed just set three historical periods in the development of agricultural education in Morocco. A first period which was catalyzed by French sociologists, in which schools in which agricultural education truly happened at school and seemed to have been geared to a certain class of peasants, because this was a Franco-Berber school. The term Arab has never appeared in between them. And also the second generation was when the state of Morocco was well established, and the state started trying to produce technical personnel who could, using Mohammed's words, talk to the peasants. Talk to the peasants appeared to be the essential goal of that generation. And the third, and this was done, of course, within the spirit of interdisciplinarity, as people needed to know more than one aspect of farming to be able to interact with the peasant. And the third generation is today's generation, the generation that is in which education is geared at providing jobs for people who enroll at universities in what also has been termed by Mohammed as the neoliberal drive. And I may also add, to do justice, that Mohammed is lamenting Generation 2 and appeared to be rather unhappy with the neoliberal direction that universities are taking.
On se bat parce qu'on est arrivé à faire revenir le stage de développement qui est très intéressant. Maintenant on le fait, c'est réciproque, mais quand même on le fait, on commence à sortir
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. I will, of course, have some questions to you later. I think also many people here will be itching to ask you about how colonialism has in fact affected the total change in the modes of production, and this change has been propagated through these schools one after the other. I note very interestingly that the only people you mention in the foundation of agriculture education are French people, in the foundation. not later. Pacon, an example from Ferry. Pacon is Moroccan, like in Pied Noir. Born in, okay. 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 You will explain that a little bit more.
Than many of Moroccan. He's more Moroccan than
Okay. We can address that. There is no doubt, however, that there has been a tremendous change in the modes of production that's been brought, by colonialism and mandate. Ray, do you want to, please? You have 5 minutes.
As long as that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to talk about agricultural training. I am going to talk about the issue of interdisciplinarity, the state of areas of some aspects of the discipline of political economy and political science, and then in my second hour I'll talk about kind of alternative problematics that can emerge. Interdisciplinarity is a word that, interdisciplinarity is now a term that has been bandied around in British and American universities for probably more than a decade, but there are very little opportunities to see it in practice. Why? Largely because people are very retentive about their own particular disciplines, and also because universities score points against each other and rank individual academics in relation to their core disciplines. Until that stops, there will not be progress in interdisciplinarity. So the audit culture, which comes with the neoliberal university, is one that has taken hold of the possibility of being genuinely interdisciplinary, because core subjects, political science, economics, international relations, are the subjects with which people are scored and assessed. Now, within this overall problematic, within political studies broadly defined, I see the term political science as an accusational term, which one I seldom use until I'm trying to score points against other people. The core subjects which have received increased dominance because of the way in which the world has emerged since especially 9/11 is international relations and strategic studies. If anybody did an audit of the number of jobs that have been touted around for IR and strategic studies, they will by far outnumber any jobs in international development studies, agricultural economics, so on and so forth. And within that, we are then presented with a dichotomous view of the world: capitalism or barbarism. That is the problematic that is presented by mainstream IR and strategic studies. There are glimpses or attempts to try and radicalize those different elements, but it's very difficult. Within my own university, the University of Leeds invested a lot of money in a food and famine project, but their preoccupation and focus is on production. It's on science, the application of science to technological problems. Within political science, of course, we know that there is a persistent characterization of Orientalism, that this region is unique and specific and separate from the rest of the world, is distinguished by particular types of customs, lineages, language, and of course, religion. If you want to look for radical scholarship outside of, or alternative scholarship outside of political studies and IR, then really one looks to, for me, of course, the journal that I work with, the Review of African Political Economy, but also geography journals. There's something wonderful about geography as an interdisciplinary discourse, and some anthropology. Critique of Anthropology as a journal that still limps along is one that offers immense insight and uses ethnography as a mechanism for understanding and listening and talking to farmers rather than talking to policymakers. Now, in 2 minutes, how would I really kind of set an alternative? And that's what this is what really, of course, bugs me and interests me more than just slagging off my colleagues, which I do at great length when I'm at home. I try not to do that when I'm traveling, unless I've had a few beers, of course. And I think the question that raises really is, what are and these are issues that will come up later today, I mean, what are the big issues in trying to uncover the intricacies of rural life in the Middle East and North Africa? What are the the big issues. And how can we do that by not suggesting that this region is separate and peculiar, but also recognize some of its specificities? So we have a general problematic, a general set of universal terms of reference to understand and analyze the rurality, but at the same time we do recognize that there are some distinguishing particularities. And how do we do that and dismiss the challenge from IR and strategic studies that you're not being value-free? Well, my work is not value-free, and I do not in any way attempt to write anything that is without the value of justice and equality, okay? If you write and offer the idea of something that is value-free, you tend to promote the status quo, and you therefore tend to reinforce the mess that the world is currently in. The challenges to doing research in this region, it seems to me, are twofold. One, of course, is authoritarianism and the violence and the discounting of farmers as anything that are important. Who cares about farmers and tenants and near landless? And this is in a context in Britain of the neoliberal university. And this neoliberal university is one that effectively places restrictions on fieldwork. I am now too old and too expensive to do fieldwork. It's also too risky to do it. So therefore employ if it's necessary at all, employ somebody else to do it. But best of all, do it remotely. We have the technology. This is a line from Star Trek, of course. We have the technology. So let's not bother to go to the region and understand and listen and talk to farmers. And in my life, I've had a most wonderful mentor who sadly died 2 years ago, Lionel Cliff, who throughout his life as an Africanist, as a radical scholar, was always intent on engaging with and talking to farmers. And that's something, despite my language limitations, that I've also always tried to do. So the context of neoliberalism, the restrictions on university opportunities to do fieldwork are really quite extraordinary, especially as the neoliberal university is now suggesting that this is no longer a protected space of the academy. We are not in that protected space. This protected space is now open to the market, which determines that we do work for policy. And not only do we do work for policy, which reinforces the status quo, of course, because you're not hired by people whose policy you're critiquing, you must then show impact. So you've got to show something that's measurable. And that leads me on, can I have another 2 minutes? Yes. That leads me on to this idea of if it's possible to elevate and promote this idea of a universal methodology. And of course, for me, that methodology is an agrarian political economy. It's the use and employment of key terms like capital accumulation, transformation in the context of inequality, and therefore a focus on class and gender. And these are general categories which we can operationalize and use in every social context. The particularity and the specificity of this region, it seems to me, relate to three things. I mean, one is war and occupation. The second is environmental crisis, some of which we saw on the film yesterday. And the other is structural adjustment and economic reform. These are three big umbrella terms under which I think we try and promote and engage our work. And we do that also, I think. I recently reread C. Wright Mill's Sociological Imagination, which is wonderful. And of course, he's a non-Marxist, so this is a fantastic scholarship. But the thing that he does is promote the idea of biography and history as method for understanding social formations. And that's a wonderful lesson for agricultural economists, the technicians, to understand. Listen and learn from individuals' biography and the history of the particular social formations. This is particularly questioning because here we are in a region which we all know is so heavily dependent upon imports for food production and is so heavily skewed in terms of levels of inequality. Now, those two things going together do very much distinguish this region from others, and yet it seems so hard to lever up the opportunity to do research and promote alternative policy formulation. So for me, the shortcomings in research relate to still the failure of many scholars to problematize how rural inequality is reproduced, the need to understand the relationships between the rural and the urban, and in so doing also develop a theoretical set of frameworks to understand those social people who straddle between the countryside and the town? Are they worker peasants? Are they a peasanteer?
So I'm Bilgi Sabara. My background is chemistry. I stepped into water issues when I started working with the Water and Environment Center at Sana'a University. First I started at the Faculty of Science at Sana'a University. Then I stepped into the Water and Environment Center in 2005, and there I was organizing a master program in integrated water resources management. And there I work in on integrated approaches to water management. And in late 2011, I started heading the Gender Development Research and Study Center at Sana'a University. And there I am also heading a master program in international development and gender. So my current studies are focused on water issues related to gender and conflict. Thank you.
Which is a pretty unique journal on African studies in terms of its political economy and radical critique.
Sabah al-khair. I'm Habib. I'm from Tunisia, based in France, where I teach social geography. I'm actually a social geographer, and as a researcher, I'm more focusing on rural issues, and I started working on water problematics, and then I moved to small farmers world. My first works have been done in Egypt, where I had the chance to work closely with Rim Saad. I think she will give a presentation this afternoon, and many other colleagues. And from 2007 and a bit more from 2011, I moved to.
Let's proceed with this session, which is dedicated to investigating in the form of a panel the state of agriculture training in the region, and with a special focus on the interdisciplinarity of training. I am we are extremely lucky to have our esteemed colleagues in here. And as I am not sure, I know everyone in here, but I am going to ask them to make a brief introduction of themselves, a couple of sentences, where you are, and essentially your academic credentials, because this is, your educational credentials, because this is a roundtable around education. So where do you work and in what field exactly? And then we shall proceed after that with a quick 3-4 minutes presentation from each person about their views of the matter, after which we shall open that to a debate with the audience and the participants of the panel, able to exchange views and ideas. I hope this is agreeable to everyone who is here. They are going to introduce themselves, because I'm not sure I'll do a fair job of it. Mohamed?
Okay. Okay, Mohamed Mehdi. My English is bad. I introduce myself in English, but after that I will talk in French. Mohamed Mehdi. I teach rural sociology in Ecole Nationale dAgriculture in Meknes. But my background, I was in the University Hassan II, and I learned political sciences. But I moved to sociology and anthropology. In all my field work, all my research has been done in anthropology and sociology. So, okay.
Thank you. Ray?
Okay. I'm Ray Bush. I'm Professor of African Studies and Development Politics at the University of Leeds. I've worked in and on African political economy for many years, working particularly with a journal called the Review of African Political Economy.
To Tunisia, where I'm doing research and related activities in Tunisia, and working closely since 4 or 5 years, I think, with my comrade Ray Bush. And I'm also filmmaker, making documentaries on rural issues and related problematics and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Habib. My name is Rami Zureik. I am a professor in the Faculty of Agricultural and Food Sciences in this university at AUB. My formal training is that of an agriculture engineer. I'm a soil scientist by training, and I chair today a department of landscape architecture, where I work in landscape science. A lot of my work, though, has is at the interface between natural sciences and social sciences, with specific interest in matters that have to do with food security, conflicts, the agrarian question within that whole optic.